Hey, District 2 sports fans, it's Gregory here, and I want to tell you about our new sponsorship here. If you're looking to make your business stand out, you've got to check out Chaos Cartel Company. They specialize in custom shirts, hats, tumblers, banners, and so much more. And the best part, there's no minimum order. And their pricing is amazing. I should know because we have a few shirts from them. Whether you're a small business or just looking to get some cool merch, Chaos Cartel Company is here to help. They love working with other businesses to bring your brand to life. If you want to get started, give them a call at 434 489 6123 or shoot them an email at chaoscartel1, and that's the number one, at gmail.com. Chaos Cartel Company, making your business look good, one custom piece at a time.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on all your favorite music apps. Like and subscribe.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, we're back with another exciting episode. So we got some more basketball for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have the second year or third year head coach going to his third year, Coach Dwight Perry of the Wofford Terriers. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Excited to be on. Obviously, it's a great time of year to kind of sit back, relax. Had a great year, but obviously, kind of starting to turn the page while also getting to watch some good high-level NBA basketball with the NBA playoffs.
I'm glad to bring that up. Before we get started into your career, I mean, do you have a favorite right now going to the NBA, finals and whatnot?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'll be honest, like so growing up in Durham, North Carolina, grew up in ACC country, so always I've always been a big fan of college basketball. Growing up all the way, I didn't start watching really NBA basketball consistently until I got to college. So never really had a true NBA team. Have always followed the NBA and obviously post high school, especially post college. Definitely just like watching good basketball. Like, some former teammates that played, definitely followed them and rooted for them. And, as time goes on, you have, guys that you've been around that you're fortunate enough to coach and be around that obviously, again, you root for. But never really had like a true diehard team growing up. So I mean, probably like a lot of people, or at least some people, big Anthony Edwards fan right now. He's playing
Nice.
unbelievable. So can hard to root against Steph Curry and the Warriors. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of I just like watching good basketball.
There we go. I like it. We kind of just mentioned it, talking about you growing up in Durham. So I like to tell our fans, get to know you a little bit more. Tell us about your background getting into basketball, like where to start. Really, is high school. I know you walked on there at Kentucky, but can you tell us
Yep.
a little bit more about before that?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Durham, North Carolina, I mean, you have Duke, Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, all right there. And so that's just, for my whole life, all the way up to 18, that's what I knew. That's what I was used to. It wasn't till you get outside of that where you realize, I mean, growing up, it was pretty much like 90% ACC basketball and then Allen Iverson at Georgetown. That was basically my upbringing as far as college basketball, but I loved it. And so I probably say around my senior year of high school, going into my senior year, I really, you start, figuring out what you want to do about college. And, everyone's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it's easy to say, I don't want to do this. Right. And finally, my head coach, my high school coach asked, well, what about coaching basketball? And it was like the most obvious thing that I had never thought of. I was like, yeah, would love to do that, and so it just kind of from there, I had an older cousin who was a senior my freshman year at Kentucky, who's from Durham as well. And so at the time, Tubby Smith was the head coach at Kentucky. And literally my cousin just asked if there would be an opportunity to walk on. Coach Smith said, for me to come up in the summer and we'll see. And, no one ever told me to leave, so I just stayed. And so that's really how I got my foot in the door to coaching college basketball. I knew I wanted to coach. I had been around and watched it at a very high level growing up and knew I wanted to be a part of it. Didn't know how. And it was literally just kind of a shot in the dark. And it honestly has worked out. And so I'm very fortunate because as much as I talked about growing up in the triangle with, those particular colleges, again, like just not knowing other programs going to Kentucky, right? A lot of people you would think, all right, there's Duke, there's North Carolina, there's Kentucky. They're very similar. Big Blue Nation, Kentucky basketball is just on another stratosphere. And again, like there's obviously pros and cons that come with that, as we all know, but overall in totality, it was one of the best experiences I've ever been able to be a part of because it exposed me to literally the highest of highs. And in some ways you got to experience what I'm sure a lot of people would only dream of. So I was very fortunate, in my basketball background to be able to experience a lot of great programs.
Coach, I'm gonna skip a whole lot right here since you just mentioned that aura of Kentucky basketball. What was it like walking into Rupp back in March and bringing your own team in there? And did you still get the goosebumps? And how did they react?
Man, it was humbling. It was an amazing experience. It was very surreal. To be honest, we finished up probably 6 days earlier. So we played our conference tournament on Monday and selection show wasn't until that following Sunday. So, I mean, in today's day and age in 2025, you have the bracketologists, you have all this stuff that you get to see and you have all this information. So it's already being floated out, right? That we could play Tennessee in Rupp or Alabama in Rupp or Michigan State in Cleveland. So you already have these mock scenarios in your head and people hitting you up. And, when it first happened and even leading up to it, I'm still in coach mode. So I'm like, hey, it's just another game. Obviously, it's Rupp, great environment. Like, we're focused on whoever we're playing. Cool. We get to see Tennessee. Like, Rupp, great environment, focused on Tennessee. And it wasn't until the day before that we had our practice, the first time we got to walk into Rupp that had literally, to your point, goosebumps, and it hit me like this is real. Like this is an amazing experience, and I mean, I can't even put into words being able to play and coach in Rupp, but then being able to do it after having played in college. Again, playing in the NCAA tournament alone would have been amazing. The fact that I got a chance to do it in Rupp and my family was there and my wife and kids got a chance to see it and we got to tour the practice facility. They had a blast. Like everyone being a part of it made it a truly special experience that I don't think I could ever replicate in any other way.
Is that when you walk your kids over to the spot and say, "Yeah, I hit a few jumpers from right here," or something? Hey, I
Yeah.
stood right here and drank water, or
Listen, I got a 6 and a 3-year-old, so like any story I'm saying, they're like, yeah, yeah, I hear you. They see a ball, they want to go and shoot. They're not worried about dad's stories. They could care less. They just want to have a good time themselves.
Well, Coach, I had a
Well,
question about your. Go ahead, I'll let you go.
Coach, I just want to say, me and Big Greg, we're huge UNC basketball fans. I graduated from Carolina myself, so it pains me to hear you say that Big Blue Nation is on a whole nother stratosphere when it comes to, especially for somebody who grew up on Tobacco Road like that.
Listen, and I say that with the utmost respect, right? Like, but the reality is, right, like I think part of what makes obviously the triangle awesome, right? You have three programs that have won national championships all in such a small area of each other is also what makes Kentucky just as equally, if not more, because, right, I mean, you just think about the state of North Carolina, you obviously have those four high major programs, right? You also have, right, the Charlotte Hornets. You have basketball on a very high level, and there's different pockets where they can draw from. In Kentucky, in the state of Kentucky, there's no pro NBA team, and it's just Kentucky and it's Louisville. And again, if we're being really honest, it's Kentucky and then it's Louisville. But it just makes it to where the dynamic is completely different to where, I mean, the sole focus of everyone in that state is really obviously it's those two programs, and obviously with Kentucky, having one more than Louisville, that's just an objective fact. It just makes it to be a completely different deal. Which again, it's not Carolina or Duke or NC State's fault. It's just the dynamic that it unfolds. But again, it's on another level. And as we all know, in college basketball, that can be great. And obviously, there's a lot that you have to manage with that. But I think again, all in all, it makes for a pretty unique experience.
Well, Coach, my last question about the about Kentucky, and we'll move on from that school. But you were there for under legendary head coach Tubby Smith, and then you saw a transition to, I think, while you were there to Mike Gillespie. What was the transition like, and did you notice like a change in the program at all, or with the players, or how that transition go?
Yeah, I mean it was a pretty drastic transition from Tubby Smith to Billy Gillespie for sure. But I think, I say this in all sincerity. I'm appreciative of it because, right, I think sometimes, not only in sports, but in life, if you only see something one way, not only whether it's bad, but even if it's good, you really don't get the full perspective of, what goes into why things are good. And as we all know, right, in order to not only to appreciate the great times and great situations, you have to know and truly understand the bad situations as well, but also like you get a well-rounded view of, or a more well-rounded view of college basketball. And not only are you dealing with two different coaches, you're dealing with two different, assistant coaches, groups of assistant coaches. You're dealing with different philosophies on both sides of the ball, coaching philosophy. Everything is completely different. And so they're absolutely, it's well publicized of, how Coach Gillespie runs a program and how he operates. But I mean, in addition to being able to be exposed to that, I also, right, got a chance to develop some great relationships with different assistant coaches, have great relationships with other players that obviously that staff brought in. And so, again, I'm the coach I am today because of the experiences that I have witnessed and gone through, both positively and negatively. And so, when it's all said and done, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Greg, someone on your mic, Greg. Uh, anyways, Coach. So after you played at Kentucky, welcome back to you,
I hit
Greg.
my button.
Oh, there we go.
I hit
I
my
did the same thing. I just had the beauty of
yeah.
doing it before we
Dang,
recorded.
I think I hit it with my elbow. God, I'm sitting there asking the best question ever, Greg. I'm sorry. So I gotta cut you off, Greg. You so listen, like I said, I skipped around a whole lot, but a lot of people have a lot of dates in their minds, anniversaries, Christmas, birthdays they keep up with. But I want to ask you about two dates, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about. What was the difference or in your life, how did life change on December 5th, 2022? And as far as March 20th, 2023, how did those dates change your life?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously it's hard to sum up into words, right? You know, being able to, I'm sure you're speaking of obviously, the transition of being the interim coach and then getting a chance to be a full-time head coach. That's what you dream of. That's what I dreamed of, my whole life, especially from around the time, I really started to get into coaching and, not to be too long-winded. I think one of the biggest reasons I didn't know being a head coach was something I could do is growing up, in my mind, I thought you had to be a basketball savant in order to be a college coach, right? You're seeing Coach K and Mike Krzyzewski and, John Wooden. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not I would never be qualified to do that. I don't have the basketball knowledge. I won't be able to have the basketball knowledge. And obviously, time and experience helps with that. But the older you get, the more you're around it, also, the more you realize it doesn't matter what sport, coaching is so much about being able to connect and relate to people as it is about the overall knowledge you have for that particular sport. But, my whole life, I had a goal to be a Division One head coach, and that was something that I was dead set on. I didn't know when it would occur, when I would be afforded the opportunity, and so when that opportunity first presented itself, just to be the interim, I told myself, hey, like you have to treat this opportunity as if this is going to be the only opportunity you have. And if you're only the interim head coach, this is all you get to do in order to be a head coach, then make the most of it. And part of it, a large part of it was pouring everything I had and talking to our staff, us pouring everything we had into our players and helping them and to be the best that they could be, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. And then, you were able to kind of lock in because it happened in the middle of the year, right? There's no off season where you're building a philosophy, where you're now going out recruiting. All we were focused on is the guys. what do our guys need? How can we get our guys to perform the best they can during the season? That was it. No trying to communicate with boosters and raising money, no going out recruiting. Just what do our players need physically, mentally, and emotionally? How can we be prepared as a staff to help them be the best that they can be in a game? And so, in some ways, right, like it's kind of freeing because you don't have to deal with the other stuff because the other stuff doesn't matter if you're not going to be a full-time head coach. And to your point, when I was named head coach permanently, right, again, in a great way, that's when it like kind of really became real because now you're having to absorb everything that comes into it, right? Both good and bad, both positive and negative. And so it almost was like two different experiences. But again, I mean, you want to talk about great problems to have. You're talking about being able to fulfill a childhood dream and that fully coming to fruition. Again, it was amazing. And, I would be remiss if I didn't say the big one of the biggest reasons I'm able to do it too is because I have arguably, the best woman in my corner and my wife who's amazing. She's understanding. We have two great kids, they're 6 and 3. The support system that she has helped create and foster at home and with our program. I mean, there would be no chance I would be able to do it without her help. And so, my wife, Brittany, she's truly the real MVP. And so, I mean, again, kids don't sign up for what comes with being, right, the son or sons of a coach. And obviously, even though my wife did sign up for some of it, it's still, right, it's completely different when you go from being an assistant to a head coach and, everything that comes with that. She's been unbelievable. And so it's been a lifelong dream that I'm fulfilling currently to this day that I'm truly fortunate to do.
Well, you hear a lot about the rifts between administration and the academic side of things and then the athletic side of things. And I'm going to butcher your president's name, so I'm not even going to try to attempt that. But, everything I read and everything I hear, Dwight Perry is our guy. What does that mean to have the backing from, the people, the president and the administration there at Wofford?
No, I mean, Dr. Naif Sam Hat, he's awesome. Um, to your point, I think in today's day and age, I think there's a lot of either or. Either you have to go all in on academics or you have to go all in on athletics, and you have to, one is going to suffer. And I think we're fortunate enough, not only from an administrative standpoint, but from a program standpoint. And I'll be honest, Coach Mike Young, who's now the head coach of Virginia Tech, he deserves a lot of credit for this as well because, I mean, he did both at a really high level. He won 5 championships here, graduated every single kid that was a senior on his roster. And so, when you have that type of foundation that's already been laid when you take over, I'll be honest, it's really easy for me because I'm just not messing it up, right? I'm just following in those footsteps. But to your point, having the backing and support of the administration and from our president is huge because at the end of the day, as we all know, you need to be able to work well together. If you're constantly fighting and you're constantly having this tug of war between the academic side and the athletic side, everyone's really going to suffer. Not only is the basketball staff going to suffer, or will the academic or administration to suffer, but ultimately, right, most importantly, the players are going to suffer. Whereas if everyone's rowing in the same direction and going in the same place with the same end goal in mind to help the student athletes be the best students and athletes that they can be during their time right at Wofford, I mean that's really why we're in this. And so, no, I mean it's a great question. I'm really fortunate to be able to have the backing and support of the president.
Coach, I made a fatal mistake when I was looking up some information earlier. I actually told these two guys, I said, I don't have a whole lot of questions, and now I can't even stop talking. So let me tell you what I do. So I go on the website, and I'm kind of looking at this year's schedule,
Yep.
thinking I'm looking at this year's schedule. I said, they lost to Chattanooga in the conference. What happened to the game against Tennessee? So I'm looking at 23-24.
Yep.
But I'm kind of glad I did because I just wanted to kind of ask you, did you feel like you were in like deja vu this year? Because these schedules and the results are eerily similar. I mean, I look at you, you go through like last year, you have it's a win in loss streak, but I know the first 5 games, I think you had an exhibition and another
Yep.
game before that, but you lose to UT at Knoxville, you lose at Blacksburg, and then you go to the Great White North and play in a tournament up there and lose all 3 of those games. But, then I look at this year's schedule, you play Lipscomb off the get-go, you play Presbyterian, and you play Duke, but it's kind of eerily similar. It
Yep.
just seems like though this year everything was geared towards the March ending and to get where you got. So I just kind of, if you could kind of comment on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, we played Canisius, Lipscomb, and Asheville and Montreal, and I think that trip we went 0-3 and lost. I think it was a 1 point game in the last 4 minutes of all 3 games. That trip has still scarred me from wanting to go back to Montreal. But no, to your point, it's a great question. You have great questions. I'm loving the questions,
I,
but
I try. That's all I could try.
If he would let other people talk, we would have great questions too.
But no,
That's the
it's
truth.
for us, it's all about the NCAA tournament. That's the goal every year, right? And that doesn't mean if you don't get there that you are a failure. You want to be the best team that you can be. So we gear our non-conference schedule to make us be the best prepared that we can be for our conference schedule. Our conference is really good. It's one of the 5 best mid-major leagues in the country. And it's a reason why, right? We had 6 top 150 teams in our league. And so, right, like you kind of work backwards. If the end goal is to be the best that you can be to play in the tournament, well, you need to be the best that you can be in conference play. Well, in order to be the best that you can be in conference play, you got to try to prepare for that in non-conference. So, right, objectively speaking, we know that right now we're gonna need to, right, have to go through the fire in non-conference. Does that mean, right, in a perfect world, we go 13-0? Would love that. But like objectively speaking, we know that's probably not going to be in the cards, and that's okay because at the end of the day, like you can schedule a cupcake schedule and you can go 12-1, 11-2, but then you're going to get a rude awakening if you go into conference play. And once you have that rude awakening in conference play, good luck trying to continue to have some momentum to be able to play your best in conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, what you just spoke about those last 2 years, it's probably going to be the same thing with us this year. I mean, another component of that, to be honest, is it's hard to schedule and hard to get games when you have the track record we have. But again, good problems to have. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's to your point, that's very intentional, but I think it's boded well for us to prepare us for the end of the year.
Coach, I wanted to take it back a little bit back into your time after you graduated from Kentucky. You were a grad assistant there at VCU, and you got to kind of learn underneath Shaka Smart and his Havoc defense and whatnot. I think they went to 2 NCAA tournaments while you were there and went to the round of 32 as well. So if you can talk about what you're able to learn from Coach Smart and just being in that program at that time.
Yeah, I actually was fortunate enough to be there for 3 full years. I was a GA for 2 years, and then I was video coordinator for one. And talk about great timing, right? Like you talk about my bio, great timing. So I got to VCU the year after they went to the Final Four. I came to Wofford the year after they went 21-0, and were a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. So I tell you what, my timing's been impeccable the last couple of places I've been. But no, I mean, VCU was amazing. We went to the tournament all 3 years. We beat Wichita State in a 12-5 game and lost basically at the buzzer to Indiana my first year. We beat Akron and lost to Michigan the year with Trey Burke, and they had like 25 NBA players. They lost, I think, in the national championship to Louisville. And it was Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway Jr., Mitch McGary, Karis LeVert. Um, yeah, Nick Stauskas. I mean, they were loaded. But and then my third year, we played and lost to Stephen F. Austin. But yeah, we were fortunate enough to have 3 great teams while I was there, and so obviously learned a lot from him. But to be honest, one of the best experiences outside of being around those players is the amount of head coaches I ended up being around down the line. I mean, Will Wade, Mike Rhodes, Jamie Christian, Jeremy Ballard, Donnie Lind, Mike Morrell, all those guys, are uh, current D1 head coaches. I mean, that's just to be around that many people, and never mind the fact other fellow GAs other people in that program that are heavily involved in college basketball and basketball in general. Again, it's something, honestly, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced or even heard about, on that level. And so that was cool because not only are you getting a chance to learn from a Coach Smart, you're learning from all the people I just named. Mike Jones, completely forgot about Coach Jones. We never worked together for a full year, but for a couple months before he got the Radford job, he was there. And so again, that was an experience unlike any other. And so it was awesome to be around that collection of talent, not only from a player's perspective, but from a coaching perspective.
So after you left VCU, I think you were at Furman for a few years. When you left Furman to go to Wofford, did you know Coach McCauley before? I think he played at Georgia maybe at the same time you were at Kentucky. Did you have any like relationship from that, or how did that go?
Yeah, so he didn't, we were 4 years apart. So he was we actually didn't overlap. So when he
Okay.
graduated is when I came in as a freshman, but we actually worked together at Furman. And so myself, Coach McCauley, and Bob Ritchie, now the head coach at Furman, all three of us were assistants at Furman for Nico Medved, who's now the head coach at Minnesota. So that was the relation, that was the connection and the relationship when Coach McCauley hired me here at Wofford, is uh, we had worked together for 3 years at Furman before I got here.
Well, Coach, I mentioned earlier about you going to Kentucky and having played for Tubby Smith and getting played for Gillespie there. Did that transition or that experience for you back then kind of help you when you get the interim tag there in December? And how did you kind of go about, working with these players who had gone from, being under Macaulay to yourself and kind of making sure that was a smooth transition?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I alluded to in some ways. 100% that experience I had with a Coach Gillespie, and transitioning from a Tubby Smith to a Billy Gillespie, it was vital and fundamental in the transition from a Coach McCauley when I got here or when I took over as interim head coach. Because I think, right, I think it's easy and it's understandable, like, of figuring out, like, all right, what do I need to do to be a head coach? How can I focus on me and our staff, and what do we need to do? But in reality, when you have guys that have been through so much, not only physically but mentally and emotionally, right? Like that's the most important part, is getting them to be in a great place. So like the day the transition took place, we didn't have practice. We were scheduled to play Coastal Carolina the next day. And so the day before we played Coastal Carolina, we canceled practice. Because at the end of the day, right, like that's great. We can know Coastal Carolina's plays and we can know what plays we're going to run. If guys aren't in a place to be able to perform anywhere close to their best mentally and emotionally, the physical stuff doesn't matter. It's so irrelevant. And I think, again, being a part of that, seeing the pros and cons and the positive and the negative from my college experience playing, I think absolutely helped me fully understand kind of what we needed to do in order to give our guys the best chance for success. At the end of the day, you want to get your guys back to a place to where they're having fun and enjoying basketball. And that's great. If you have competitive people, you can't enjoy basketball and have fun if you're not winning and having success, right? Everything can't come at the expense of that. They have to work together. But ultimately, like, if you're truly a competitor, like, you're not going to have fun losing all the time. So, like, you have to put them in a position to have success. But in order to do that and the process that goes into that, it can't be at the expense of, right, their mental and physical health and them not enjoying the process. And so to your point, I mean, that absolutely is something that I was able to pick up along the way during that process of that transition in college.
Coach, I'm the stat nerd. I'm the nuts and bolts guy of the roster makeup and stuff like that. So I look at the stats. Um, just like I said earlier about some of the other things, eerily similar with your opponents.
Yep.
Two things really stand out to me. Rebounding 38.2 to 30.7 a game, and then the assists 15.0 to 11.7. Everything else is very, very close with the opponent. I look at your top six players. You have four seniors. what really separates Wofford or separated Wofford from your opponent this year? Is it the senior leadership, or is there something in those stats that you can point out?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. It's the senior leadership, but I think, what makes Wofford special is when we recruit, whether it's in the transfer portal with kids that have been in college already or high school kids, there's a level of competitiveness, there's a level of toughness, and there's a level of selflessness, being a great teammate that are non-negotiables. And so I think one thing that we've kind of really tried to tap into is that competitiveness and toughness, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. And right, like there's the same people love to talk about toughness and they associate it with taking a charge and diving on the floor for a loose ball. And those are absolutely fundamental components to being tough and definitely help you win. But the level of mental and emotional toughness it takes for you to miss a shot and take the next shot when you're open, right? After you've missed two or three, there's a level of toughness that goes into that. There's a level of mental toughness you have to have if you are open for a good shot, but your teammate is open for a great shot and passing up your good shot for a great shot. There's a level of toughness you have to have when you're tired and you're fatigued and you're waiting for that whistle to get to a dead ball so you can get subbed out, but you're still playing defense and you need to make the proper defensive rotation. All
So
those
for,
elements and scenarios I just described are toughness to us. And some is more loud than others, but all of them equally impact winning. And so I think, it starts with our seniors. They embody that. I think those four guys, Kyler Filowich, Jackson Civils, Dylan Bailey, and Corey Tripp, they all took huge jumps and made major strides in that department from their junior to their senior year. And I also think as a program, you talked about the rebounding and the assists. I think that's something we really tried to tap into, and we were really intentional about trying to be really good at taking care of the ball, sharing the ball, but also of rebounding the ball. And we don't have the most athletic team, but I think if you really value it as a coach, you can't value everything, right? You can't emphasize everything. If you emphasize everything, you're emphasizing nothing. So like those were areas of sharing the ball and rebounding that as a coaching staff, I think we really we ramped up, if I'm being honest, and we were really intentional about emphasizing going into this year. And credit to our guys for buying into it. And I think again, like I talked about before, the success. When you see the success of something, it makes you want to do it more. And I think our guys, we reaped the benefits of that early, and we just kind of stayed with it, and it ended up being a major part of why we were successful this year.
Well, I know you said you was relaxing today, but I was kind of looking at those things as well. And I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes down to things like the COVID year. I mean, in pure ignorance, I'm just kind of wondering if I assume that that's over with now.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, at Wofford this year, and I know you probably don't want to hear this question whatsoever, but is it rebuilding year or is it a reloading year? Because I know that you lose Corey, you lose Kyler, you lose Dylan, and you lose Jackson. So I know that probably wasn't the best of questions, but at the same
Huh?
time, like I said, I mean, is this a rebuilding year or you reloading, Coach?
Listen, there's no bad questions because I'm an open book. I don't run from it. I don't hide. I mean, I think there's a lot of that in our profession. But yeah, I mean, I think our standard is always to compete for a Southern Conference championship. It's the reason why, since 2010, since 2000, I mean, we've won more Southern Conference championships than any other team in the league. And you don't get that from running from that, right? But I think it's a balance, right? Like if that's all you're consumed with is trying to reload, win the championship, I think you also miss out on what goes into winning a championship, which is continuing to get great people, continuing to get great players. If you have staff turnover, continuing to hire great people, have all those people pour into how can we get better a little bit better each and every day. And at the end of the day, the standard is to compete for a championship. So your daily habits and how you go about it have to be championship habits. There's absolutely going to be times where you fail or where you don't reach the goal of winning a Southern Conference championship. That doesn't mean you failed in your year, you can be the best version of yourself and it just not work out that way, especially in a league that's as good as ours, right? Like there's been a lot of really good teams that didn't go to the NCAA tournament or win a championship. That doesn't mean they didn't, become the best version of themselves. And so I think, yeah, the absolutely to your point, the rebuilding is not really something, right, in our vernacular. It's definitely not in mine. We have a collection of guys that, again, I think if our guys' goal aren't to have championship standards and have a championship mindset and have a championship work ethic, then you're recruiting the wrong players and we're not in the right place. Ultimately, whether we achieve that goal or not, time will tell. But we absolutely have that mentality. But more than anything, the goal, I think, is trying to get better each and every day.
Well, I needed to give you a little bit of more kudos than what I did earlier because I feel like, not only is athletics a big thing and the basketball team and the players are huge in your aura, but the other thing is I noticed that you have three kids that made the academic All-American team, I think, in
Yep.
Dylan and Kyler and Jeremy. And I wasn't really sure how does this thing compute, but I kind of your website actually relays the subject and it says you must have a 3.5 GPA
Yep.
and you must either compete in 90% of your team's games or start in 66% of the games. So I think it's a huge tribute to you and your staff.
Thank you. I mean, again, we can only take but so much credit, right? A big part of it goes into recruiting. Like, I think a lot of times people can try to fit a square peg in a round hole, and you can say, right, it's basketball and academics are the same. Like we can say we want to recruit kids that value academics and we want great students and we want them to get good grades. But if you're taking kids that in high school, they don't value it, again, I'm not judging, but it's going to be hard for them to be able to do well academically. Same thing basketball wise. I can say we want to shoot the ball, we want to share the ball, we want to be skilled. But if we're constantly taking kids that aren't skilled, well, right, who's really at fault when you're trying to fit these square pegs into a round hole? So a big part of that, we do on the front end with recruiting. But honestly, a lion's share of the credit definitely goes to the student athletes because they're the ones. Listen, fortunately for them, they're the ones taking the exams and doing the work, and not us as coaches because it probably wouldn't go as well academically.
Well, Coach, this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of question, but I was looking at your last 10 games of the season, this past season, and I saw something really, really kind of weird and kind of awesome at the same time. I think you guys went 5-5 to end the season,
Yep.
and I was trying to figure out how you guys had the momentum to go into SoCon and win 3 games in 3 days. But if you look at it, you guys lost all 5 games at home, but you
Yep.
won all 5 games on the road. So were you confident going into Asheville that you guys are ready to play on the road?
Extremely confident, irrationally confident, probably. To your point, it was a wild thing. I mean, as coaches, right, you start to pick up on certain trends. As players are probably a little more like streamlined with their thoughts. But it got to the point, I think the second to last home game, it was obvious like we are operating at a high level on the road, and we are falling short of that level at home. And we talked about it, and I mean, it was a wild trend. It was a real trend though. And so to your point, right, we lost our senior night versus Furman at the buzzer. We were down 12-0. We got down, I think, 17 or 19 in the first half. Came back, took the lead, ended up losing at the buzzer at home on senior night. I mean, crushing, right? Like, I mean, four seniors that start, major guys, like lost at the buzzer to your rival going into the SoCon tournament. Like, I mean, just like, ugh. But like, I woke up Sunday and I texted our whole program chat and I said, hey, we know who we're playing. I actually think this might have been Saturday night after the brat, like we knew who we were gonna play. Said, hey, listen, this is who we're playing. Love the matchups. Like nothing against the teams we were potentially playing had really nothing to do with them. Love the matchups. We're driving back Tuesday morning with the Southern Conference trophy. Like we're doing that. And again, like easy to say that now, but like I truly believed it because two things. A, I just felt like our team, like this, the Sunday and Monday when we showed up to practice, it wasn't a team that had just lost at the buzzer in a gut-wrenching fashion to their conference rival. It was a team that was ready to do what it needed to do to win the championship. And when we played, right, our first game versus East Tennessee State, they're not too far away from Asheville too. It kind of was a road game. We had great attendance, but they had great attendance as well. And, again, I think, you kind of try to, play mind games with yourself, but we acted like it was a road game because we had known, I mean, that had been well for us, to your point. And, again, I we can talk for days of why the trend was the trend, but I think the trend was real. But I tell you what, I think it spoke to our toughness and our resiliency that, on the road, we definitely played at a high level. And so again, we were 5-5, but we ended up winning 3 games in 3 days in a gym away from home. And so again, I'm glad in the moment that was what the trend was. Because if it was flipped, if we were great at home and we weren't great on the road, I don't think you'd be talking to me right now.
Coach, have you, speaking of making that March Madness, March, have you all set up your 25, 26 out of conference opponents as of yet?
We have again, like I said, it's scheduling games can be a little tricky. We still have 6 games, a good 4 games to get, 4 to 6, but um 4 major games to get. And so you know, it's coming to fruition. It's taken a little longer than I would like, but I mean, again, that's good problems to have. Sometimes if it's really easy to schedule games, that probably means teams are lining up to play you, and there's usually a reason for that. But I mean, it's taking shape. I would think within the next month or so, we would have a good idea of who we're going to play and when we're going to play and we'll release it. But again, like you've already asked, I think it's going to be another challenging, tough non-conference with some really good teams, some teams that played in the NCAA tournament, not only at the high major level, but the mid-major level. And I think it's going to be a conference slate that challenges us and makes us be a really good team headed into SoCon play.
Coach, I want to go back to the SoCon championship game. I mean, you had just mentioned that Furman had beat you guys on senior night. You get them in the championship game. What's the feeling like when that buzzer goes off? You guys win 92-85, and you get to cut down the nets. And then also the second part of that, and as a fan perspective, we get to watch this thing on TV, and that tournament always looks so much fun. I mean, it's always well attended. It's a ruckus crowd. The students behind the nets. What's that like for you being there and being in that atmosphere?
And it was amazing. I think we beat Furman by 20 at their place the first time we played them, and then they beat us at the buzzer at our place the last regular season game. So I mean, again, we felt really good about, going into that game. And it's nothing against them, but, we had won convincingly one time and we lost at the buzzer another time. So, again, no matter who it was going into that game, if those were the two outcomes, I think objectively speaking, you feel really good. We knew it was going to be a great game. I mean, the Southern Conference tournament in Asheville, it's a great location. It's centrally located. It's a state that cares about basketball. The city of Asheville cares immensely about basketball and has a great relationship and history with the Southern Conference. In October in the fall, the Asheville and Eastern Tennessee area obviously had the Hurricane Helene that went through. So, they were kind of having to repair a lot of stuff in the city, and so I think it was a small part that the Southern Conference basketball was able to do for that community to kind of help repair. There's some stuff that you obviously can't get back, but I thought it brought a little normalcy, just a little bit, to that area in the community, which was great to be a part of. But the energy and the crowd atmosphere, it's electric. It's always great. But the fact that you had two teams that are basically an hour away and are less than an hour away from each other playing in the championship was awesome. It was a back and forth game, like you mentioned, 92-85. I mean, it was a lot. The fact that we scored 92 and gave up 85, I don't think any team played bad defense. It was just high level shot making. And you go back and you watch that game, and my son, that's one of the things he loves watching the 3 games from the SoCon tournament right now on the weekends, probably a little more than my wife or I would prefer, but he loves it. And to your point, when you have a specific perspective when you're coaching versus when you can just be a fan or an objective listener when you're rewatching it. And each of them are equally exciting. But to your point, I mean, it's when you're in the moment, you're so focused on what you need to do in order to win, what you need to do to be able to perform the best defensively, offensively, substitution. And so you kind of are staying locked in the moment. And when that buzzer sounds, right, you're focused all the way to the end. I think we end up calling a timeout with like 11 seconds left, and we're focused on a press to try to kill some time so that they can, not score so easily. And so all the way until the final buzzer sounds, you're focused on the game. And when that final buzzer sounds, that's when it finally hit me that we're SoCon champions and we're going to the NCAA tournament. And again, it was an experience and it was a moment that I really can't even sum up into words. But I was more than anything, I was really excited for our fans, for our school, and for our players because all the hard work that went into that game that culminated with a championship, no team deserved that more than the group of guys we had. And so I was ecstatic.
Well, Coach, maybe the not so fun part of coaching after the season is dealing with that transfer portal. And we talked to D3, D2, D1, even the high, like the prep ranks. We talked to Coach Myers from Lincoln Academy, and he has to recruit a team every year. That might just be because of where he's coaching at. But how
Yeah.
do you guys deal with this? Like every year, having to deal with kids just not staying to develop very long and having to go in the portal and get players out of there.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's definitely challenging. There's no way around it. I think the reality is everyone's dealing with it to some degree. Last year we didn't deal with it as much. We brought back our core group of guys. This year, like we spoke about, our four best players were seniors, so we already knew going into it they were going to be moving on. So for us, with the academic requirements we have for how we like to operate, we probably recruit more high school kids than the average college. That's helped us. We believe in roster retention. The best way to retain your roster is to bring back some of your younger guys. And so, we signed four high school kids in the fall, and we ended up signing five guys this offseason, five transfers. And so for us, it's been a blend. We brought back some younger guys on our team. We signed four freshmen, and we obviously signed five guys from the transfer portal. So we kind of have a collection of an array of different guys that have different experiences, that will have different experiences going into college next year. But yeah, I mean, the reality is until the rules change, until more guidelines are in place or different guidelines are in place, that's the reality of college basketball. And so, again, not to be too simplistic or overgeneralize the situation, this is the reality. So you either deal with it, you either figure it out, you make the most out of it, and I don't mean this in a negative, crass way, or you move aside and let someone else come along that's wanting to do it. And again, I know that may sound harsh, but that's how we would communicate to our players with certain things. Like if you're struggling in a certain area, or as a parent, if you're talking to your child of this is how you have to get better, or this is what you're doing, like you either remove them from the equation, they remove themselves from the equation, or you start to figure out a plan and put a blueprint in place to make the most out of this situation and try to do the best you can. And that's the exact same scenario we're in. I'm not the one that is controlling what the rules are or what the guidelines. These are the guidelines, so I have to make the most out of it. Our staff has to make the most out of it. And when we have the new players that we have, we're going to make the most out of it. But I view it as a positive. We have a good core of guys coming back that have seen and experienced what it's like to play college ball and win at a championship level. We recruited and identified and evaluated some really good high school kids, both close to Wofford and far. We have a kid from Columbia, South Carolina, one from Miami, one from Chicago, one from Minnesota. And I think they all can be great players. And we did the same thing with the college kids that are coming in. And I think, the common denominator, again, when I talked about earlier, square peg, round hole. If all kids care about when you're talking to them in the transfer portal in high school is how can I put up numbers? How can I be successful? How can me? Well, don't be surprised when you're struggling to have a team come together. So again, we passed up on some really talented players. The guys we brought in, winning was important. Getting better as an individual and as a program was important. Academics were important. being part of something greater than yourself was important. So, I mean, that's something we're targeting. If that means we have slightly less talent than other teams, then so be it. Because again, it goes back to, Greg, you mentioned about the assists and the rebounding. If you have a group of guys that value being tough and competitive and are great teammates, you can accomplish some great things. And we're obviously a great example of that this past year.
Well, Coach, I want to ask one, and then I'll rudely dip out a little early today. But I just want to ask. I mean, do you feel like your experience as being a former walk on, where you got to grind a little harder, you got to work a little harder, that spot means a little bit more on the roster? I mean, do you feel like that has shaped your perspective in terms of things when it comes to the transfer portal and NIL and stuff?
I think it's shaped it not in the it's shaped it as far as my mentality of continuously trying to get better and trying to find solutions and not excuses. Um, you know, I don't fault players for them trying to maximize their name, image, and likeness and for trying to find the best situation for them. I don't fault them for that. Again, at the end of the day, the rules are the rules. But for me, from my experience, obviously, like my experience as a walk-on is so different than obviously some of the kids today, right? With what they have at their fingertips and what they're able to have access to. But I think for me, my experience as a walk-on, where it shaped me is just my mentality and mindset of, hey, trying to be appreciative of what I have, because what I have, even if it's not, even if it has areas that are less than ideal, the situation I'm in and the situation that I have is still what a lot of people, would dream to have. So I try to have appreciation and gratitude that I think being a walk on has helped with that. And then again, like I spoke about, of just kind of having the mindset of, hey, what can we do to get better? What do we need to do to get better? Let's go and get better in that way. And I think that's probably been the biggest I'd probably say that's been the biggest part of being a walk on that I've been able to try to carry over as a coach, and as a head coach specifically right now.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate it, Coach. I'm going to head out. Gregory, feel free to edit this out, but Coach, I just want to say it's truly an honor to be able to speak with you. And congratulations again on a successful season last year. And hopefully we get to speak with you again soon.
Definitely. No, I appreciate you. Appreciate you hopping on, man.
Yeah, and maybe our dad will save us some questions next time. All right.
There you go. There you go.
Have a good one, y'all.
Coach, I'm gonna throw something in. I guess you've already figured out I'm the lighthearted one. I throw the color and the humor into everything, and Gregory adds the finality to all of it. But the thing I haven't failed to mention in the last almost 55 minutes is I love you, Barber. I mean, I have to
Oh
tell you,
man, he does a
yeah.
great job.
See, I'm follically challenged, so I
Yeah.
just want to let you know that I love you, Barber. And B, don't be surprised if you see me knocking on the gym door on game night in Spartanburg because I work that 85 corridor all the time. So don't be surprised if you see an old bald-headed guy knocking on the door looking for you, okay?
No
So,
problem at all. You
and
welcome anytime.
well, thank you. And then the next thing is it's been bothering me for a complete hour now. So we talked about your homecoming or your bringing up in Durham, North Carolina. I'm a Danville, Virginia guy.
Okay.
GW Danville was my home school. I was just been curious, we used to play Hillside all the time in football, basketball. Just
Yeah.
curious, are you a Hillside guy?
I'm a Southern Durham guy.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
but so like now having said that, my dad is one of 16, right? So
Wow.
he has 15 other brothers and sisters. The cousin I spoke about that played at Kentucky, he was a senior when I was a freshman. He went to Hillside.
Gotcha.
Um, I've had cousins that went to Hillside, and I actually my family is really close. Out of those 16, a good portion of them still they grew up in the Raleigh Durham Chapel Hill area and still live there. So I was really close with a lot of my cousins. The ones that a couple of two, three of them played at Hillside. I'm trying to make sure I get that right because I don't want to leave anyone out. But
Well, I might
I'll
be
say
dating
that to say
myself.
I've made the track up to Danville. I've been
Okay.
up there to see my cousins play Danville when they were at Hillside. So I can appreciate what you're speaking about.
Well, I might be dating myself pretty much here, and I might be wrong, but was Rodney Rogers a Hillside guy?
He was. Yep.
Okay, I was making sure.
Absolutely. He absolutely is.
Gregory, that's a Wake Forest kid who was really, really good. You just have to go back and look at him. I'm sure Gregory not familiar with Rodney Rogers at this point.
Rodney Rogers, John Lucas, all
Yep.
Hill, like, yep, lot of rich tradition. Yeah, with Hillside for sure. They're the rival, so I'm gonna try not to give them too much credit, but no, yeah, Rodney Rogers, sixth man of the year in the NBA.
Yep.
It's a little bit before your time.
Well, Coach, I wanted to, my last question, I wanted to end on you kind of talking about Wofford in general. I was looking at your stadium, Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium. I think it's only 7 years old now. How much has that been a big piece of your recruiting efforts, talking to kids and getting to play there? Because I've never been there, but I've seen pictures of the inside and outside. It's a beautiful place to play basketball.
It's amazing. The pictures don't even do it justice. And we'll send guys pictures right to their phone, virtual tours. And obviously it's amazing, like you just said. But inevitably you get there for the first time and you see it and you're still blown away. And it's great. I mean, it's a phenomenal state-of-the-art facility. They did an amazing job. Great atmosphere, great crowd. There's a built-in practice facility attached to the arena. Our guys have 24/7 access, obviously with shooting machines, and the practice facility has six goals. So, I mean, it's phenomenal. State-of-the-art athletic training facility. We're in the process of building a weight room in the arena as well. So has everything you need. The guys love it. And so, again, when you're talking about recruiting, it absolutely helps in recruiting. When you're talking about guys being able to get better, you need to have access to a facility and to somewhere where you can get better. And so that helps us. And to be able to do it in a place that's as nice as, Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium, it absolutely is huge. That's where our offices are. That's where I am right now. So, I mean, to be able to go to work every day into a office space like that, I mean, again, like I said, there's absolutely areas of this, profession that are less than ideal. But again, when you're talking about being able to, work every day, show up to work in somewhere as nice as Jerry Richardson, it's hard for me to complain. So it's a huge boon in recruiting.
What does the summer hold for Coach Perry and Wofford basketball? Do you get some time away to spend time with your family, or is it recruiting, recruiting, recruiting?
No, so we did a decent amount of recruiting for sure in March and April. That's just the nature of the beast. But for the month of May, it's going to be pretty laid back. Try to take some time off. I do believe in being able to recharge and reset. Again, like you can be as ready to roll physically, but if you're not mentally and emotionally ready and refreshed and fresh, then you're not gonna be able to perform at your optimal level. So our whole entire staff, we're taking some time away for the most part during this month of May. And then our guys will come back for summer school in June and July. And we'll have the new group that we're going to kind of help try to mold into the best version of ourselves in those first early couple months. Take some time off again in August. And then September, October roll around. It's kind of right back into it with fall workouts and obviously getting into the practice. But, definitely the month of May and August, try to have a little, some downtime and some relaxation. Definitely try to spend some more time with my family than I probably am able to during the year. They definitely deserve that, and so I don't know how much I don't know how much time I'm gonna get to truly not do anything. It's probably gonna be more geared towards them, but I enjoy that too. Because I mean, again, between my wife and I and our two kids, as she would attest, they definitely once their feet hit the ground running in the morning, it's go 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 nonstop. But again, love it.
Well, Coach, I know we held you over close to an hour now, so we apologize for that. But we could go on for another few hours talking to you. Even
Clearly, I like to do a decent amount of talking. So,
that's fine. That's the best interviews when we let coaches talk and they can talk about themselves and kind of like infer a little bit more. It's always the best interview. So we do appreciate your time. And Coach Dwight Perry of the Wofford Terriers, Coach, thank you so much.
I appreciate both of y'all. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Coach.
Coach.